Hard light can look amazing when it's done right, but in a small studio, it can be really challenging to control. Let's shoot some pictures on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there everybody, welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions right here on Adorama TV. Today's question comes from Nicole T, and she wants to know, every time I try to use hard light in my home studio, it just looks kind of flat and all over the place. I thought it was supposed to give those strong shadows, but I can't seem to make it work. Is there a trick to doing this in a small space, or do I need a bigger room? Thanks, Nicole, for sending that in. It's a really interesting question and something that a lot of photographers deal with when shooting in places like a common home studio. First of all, what are we actually talking about here? When we talk about the quality of light, we usually break it down into two types, either soft or hard. Soft light is diffused. It appears to almost wrap around your subject and gives you smooth transitions between highlights and shadows. The edges of the light are softer, the shadows are lighter, and overall, it just has a more gentle feel. On people, soft light is usually more flattering. It smooths out skin, hides texture, and helps minimize any imperfections. Hard light, however, is the exact opposite. You get sharp edges, strong shadows, and a lot more contrast. It shows every detail and it brings out structure in the face and body. When it's used the right way, it can make your subject look more sculpted and your image is going to feel bold and punchy. So, how do we actually create that? What makes light hard or soft? What it comes down to is the relative size of the light source compared to your subject. Not the actual size of the source, but how it looks from your subject's point of view. The bigger it looks from their perspective, the softer the light is going to be. If you put a big softbox right up close, it's going to hit them from all different angles and appear to wrap around them. If you move that same softbox much further away, it gets smaller and smaller, and that light becomes much harder. The sun is a great example. It's huge, but it's also 94 million miles away. That's why it creates such hard shadows on the ground. If the entire sun was right up next to the earth, it would give us this gorgeous, beautiful, soft light. But I imagine that would be a very bad scenario for all of humanity, so we're not going to be doing that. Most people are more comfortable working with soft light. It's forgiving. You don't have to be quite as precise with it, and it works pretty well on almost everybody. Hard light takes a little more intention. It shows everything, so you've got to get that placement just right, and you need the right subject. But when it works, it really, really works. You get contrast, depth, and a high-end look that really stands out. But as Nicole figured out in her home studio, when you're working in a small space like this one here with white walls all around, that hard light can get softened really fast. It bounces off everything, fills in the shadows, and can really ruin the look. In a big studio, you've got plenty of space to back your light up. You can isolate your subject and keep the beam of light off those walls and background. You can shape the light exactly the way you want without fighting reflections coming back from every single direction. So what I'm going to do today is go through a few setups here in this space, and let's see if I can wrangle this light and get it to do what I want. Now, I'm fortunate today to be joined by Hayden. Thanks, everybody. Everybody say hi to Hayden. Thank you so much, Hayden, for coming in here today. I do appreciate you being my guinea pig today to play with light a little bit. Let me tell you what gear I've got here. I am using my Westcott FJ400. It's a nice big 400 watt second flash. You can do this with a speed light, by the way. No problem. It doesn't really matter which light you use. I love the Westcott stuff, so that's what I'm using. Here on my camera, I have my Canon R5 Mark II. I'm using the 24-105 f4, and I'm triggering that light wirelessly with my FJ-X3M on top of the camera here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just a bare light, just a bare bulb light. Because this is a small light source, normally you would put it in a big softbox or something like that. That's going to be a soft light. We know that. But I've taken a softbox off. There's no reflector on here. There's nothing. It's a relatively small light source. So this is should be a pretty hard light, right? Let's take the picture and then analyze it and see what happens. So Hayden, you're perfect. You just sit here just like that. We want to see what these shadows do. 1, 2, and boom. Perfect. Now I'm on, by the way, I'm on 5 on my light power, just so you can see. Now, you can see what's happening with that light. Let's take a look at it, right? We do have a pretty hard shadow. That's a hard light. That's not what a softbox would look like, okay? We've got hard shadows on her face. However, we've got that light bouncing around all over the place because we've got white walls here. There's a white ceiling. Don't forget about the ceiling. The floor is brown, but it's still kicking up some light, this light bouncing around everywhere. So we don't really have those hard, deep shadows. And the shadow on the background, on the white background paper, is also not super hard. You can definitely see it, but the outline of it is not super tight. It's a little bit feathered. So that wouldn't, that's sort of in between a soft and hard light, but not really the hard light that we'd like to get. But that's what you're gonna get. Why? Not only is the light bouncing everywhere, but also just the nature of this light. Because this dome protrudes from the front of the light, that's going to be even harder to control because the light is going in every direction. So it's going to hit her from all kinds of places, right? So we want to avoid that. We want to really learn to control that. So how do we do it? Well, we can do it with modifiers, right? So let's start here with this. This is the Westcott 70-degree wide reflector. That is a grid, a honeycomb grid. So when you buy it, it comes like this. You can buy grids. Grids come in all shapes and sizes. They make them for soft boxes. They make them for all kinds of reflectors. I like it for this scenario because, by the way, the light does come with a small reflector, but this deeper beam is going to control the light even more. So what this is going to do is it's going to block a lot of the light from going to the sides. We want to keep the light off of the ceiling and the walls. So this is going to block a lot of that light. The grid, what a grid does is it focuses the beam even more. So we want to do everything we can to keep that light going forward and not out to the side. So if you look the way a honeycomb grid works, you can see me through there, but as soon as I turn it like that, you can't see me anymore. So that cuts the light even more. It keeps it from going out to the sides even more than the reflector by itself. So this thing is simple to install. You just slip it in there. It's got these little metal pressure things in there, and now it's in. So it's a Bowens mount, which all the Westcott gear is, which is very nice. It's easy to get. There's a lot of modifiers for that. You just slide it on. And then I'm going to turn on my modeling light so that I can see what's happening here, and I can see exactly where that beam is. Now I've got a video light going here, so it washes out a lot of the light you're seeing here. If we were in a dark room, I could really see it much clearer, but my camera exposure is overpowering this video light anyway. So anything we're seeing here with the video light is not affecting my exposure. So I'm going to brighten this light one stop. I was at 5. I'm going to go to 6 because that light's going to cut out some of the power. So I'm going to go to 6, and I'm going to adjust my frame here a little bit just to make sure I get that shadow. And Hayden, you're perfect. 1, 2, and boom. All right. And now we can see what's happening there. So we've had some differences now. First of all, the shadows are darker, right? So that means I've got less light coming from around the room. That's great. That's what we want. The beam is a little bit tighter, so we've got less spill coming from the side, and the shadows are going to start to get a little more crisp. We've got a little more control over our light. The shadows, though, are still a little rough around the edges. It's not like a super tight line, like a true hard light, like we really probably want it to be. But one thing I could do, by the way, if I still was getting some light coming from the sides, is I could bring this light in even closer and use the inverse square law. The inverse square law, if you don't have to do any math, don't worry. But all that it means is that the closer the light is to her, the faster it's going to fall off. So the background's going to be a little bit darker. Less light is going to go out to the sides and going to come back in from the sides and the ceiling. So we could use that if we really were having a problem. We could do that as well and get it in a little bit closer. Hey, before we go to the next thing, while I've got you, do me a quick favor. If you do like this video, I do appreciate you hitting that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to Adorama's YouTube channel if you don't already, and tap that bell icon so you don't miss future episodes from me and all of my friends here on Adorama TV. It really does help us keep making these free videos for you every single week. And you already know if you've got a photo question, you go to askdavidbergman.com, submit that form on the site. I just might answer your question here on a future show. All right, so with that out of the way, I think there is something else we can do that's going to give us even more control than this modifier. Let me show you that. Let me take this one off. This is a great, inexpensive modifier to get, but the next step up is right here. This is an Optical Spot. This is made by Westcott in conjunction. Lindsay Adler made this with Westcott. Thank you, Lindsay. She's a friend and a friend of the channel, and she does amazing work, and this is their creation. The Optical Spot, the way it works is it's a Bowens mount on one side, so I can hook it to that light. And then the other side, it focuses the light, but then it gives you a mount on the front here. And you can use, with this one, you can use any Canon EF mount lens. This kit that I bought happens to come with its own lens. I think it's a 135 f3.5 lens. And you put that on there just like any lens. Line up the dots there. And now what that allows you to do is to really focus the light, literally focus the light like you do when you're shooting pictures. You can actually turn this lens and change the how tight of a beam you want. I have it zoomed all the way out so that I'm really gonna get a tight, clean focus of light. It's almost like using a Fresnel lens, like a spotlight you'd see at a big concert, right? So you can put different lenses on here. If you put a wide angle lens, it'd be a wider beam. If you put a longer telephoto lens, it'd be a tighter beam. I'm just using this 135, and I'm gonna go ahead and pop it on here. And let's see what we can do with it. Again, Bowens mount, so it's easy to just slide on there. It has these little leaves on here, so you can sort of tighten down that light. I'm gonna use the modeling light so I can make sure we're hitting her there. Perfect. And again, I'm going to increase my light one more stop just to be safe. I'm just kind of guessing on these. Let's go from 6 to 7. And perfect. 1, 2, boom. And wow, look at that. Now I sort of cut off the top of her head, so it's a little hard to see this modeling light here. So let's go, you know what? I'm going to do it like that and just get the top part of her. I'm going to try to cut this right below her eyes. Now, again, when working with hard light here, you don't have a lot of room to work. I cut my finger, but I'll deal with that. All right, so 1, 2, and boom. Okay, now look at that. That's really hard light, right? Look at what happened there with the shadows. The shadows are dark. We've got nothing coming from the sides. And look at how tight the edges are, right? Now that is hard light. It's really high contrast, razor sharp edges. I've got full control over the spill and the beam shape. Also, if I really wanted to get creative, this Optical Spot comes with this little piece of metal here. I'm really bleeding there. This little piece of metal here that you can buy these Gobos with, right? Gobos, or cookies you call them sometimes, and they're all kinds of different shapes and sizes, pardon me. All right. All kinds of different shapes and sizes. This one I just picked randomly. It's got these sort of slats on them, randomly placed. And what I can do with that is put that right in here, and then we can slide that in here. And now I really need my modeling light because I'm gonna place this on her face, and I'm just gonna see what happens here, right like that. Still bleeding. And I'm gonna go off tripod here so I can really get in tight. And I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna get a little higher here. Let's see where that shadow is. It's a little hard to see in this video light, but here we go. 1, 2, boom. And there you go. That's hard light. That's really what hard light looks like. We've got full control, right? Even in this white room. Now, if you were in a room that was much smaller than this, and let's say the walls were in much closer, and you were still having trouble controlling the spill off the walls, you could add in V-flats, right? V-flats are just big, tall pieces of foam core, usually white on one side, black on the other. And that you use the black side, and you can put those right around her to basically create black walls, right? And by getting those right around her, you're gonna cut out all of that light. Don't forget about the ceiling. If you're getting it from the ceiling too, you might have to put something overhead, a flag or something like that, to really block that light. But it is possible. Hey, future David here. Sorry to break into the video, but after I did the video shoot with Hayden, we also did some photos for her portfolio, and I wanted to show you some real world examples of how I used soft light and hard light to get very different looks with her in this one small space. These first images were with the soft light, just that big Octa-L, the Westcott Octa-L softbox. As I said, it's a flattering light. It's very easy to work with. Just work with your model and get some good expressions, and you're able to get nice, soft, even light, and it's very flattering, very pretty light. For this next shots, I used the 70-degree wide reflector, the Westcott. I did not use the grid because I wanted the light to go pretty wide, and you can see that shadow back there. It's not as deep and dark of a shadow as I could have gotten if I had darker walls, but again, as I said, these white walls and the ceiling are gonna bounce that light all around, so I've got some of that light is filled in that shadow, but it's dark enough. I can always darken it in post if I have to, but the light on her is a hard light, and it works really well. It's bold and it's contrasty, and it works really well for those pictures. And then finally, I put up the Optical Spot right here. I did it just like this. I had the Optical Spot dead center pointed right in on her with that 135 lens. And then behind it, I put up another FJ400 with the Westcott 7-foot umbrella. I love that thing. It's a massive light source. And that I used that as a fill light, and I dialed it down a couple of stops. But also, I put on it this right here. Westcott makes these little flexi grids, flexi gels, and they're all different colors. I use the blue one. You put it right over the dome on the light. It fits perfectly. And I was able to turn that light into blue. So all the light that came out of that fill, out of that umbrella, was blue. Like I said, I dialed it down a couple stops to get some deeper color in there. And then that Optical Spot, the white light overpowered that in that center. I've got that nice hard edge on that spotlight, and then it just works really well. It makes a cool look. It's hard light with that fill, so you can see how you can mix and match soft and hard, and use the different types of light to get really unique looks. We did this in a couple hours right here in this very space. So I wanted to show you those. Let's get back to the video. Nicole, I hope that helps you. You can absolutely create edgy, high contrast, hard light in a small home studio. You just need to control that light so it only goes where you want and not where you don't. Do you guys use hard light for portraits? If you're not in a huge studio space, how are you making it work? Let me know down in the comments below and we'll talk about it. Hayden, thank you so much. Appreciate you being my guinea pig, sitting here for me to create light all over you. I do appreciate it. I'll put her social media in the description down below, so you can go ahead and give her a follow. As always, thank you for watching Adorama TV. I'll see you next time right here on Ask David Bergman.